Welcome to Voices of the Valley. The first season of Whitewater Valley Presbytery's podcast explores the theme of justice. Episode 5 features Voices of the Valley host, Elder Jenni Heimach, sharing her insights into the economic and environmental justice of the fair trade movement through the Presbyterian Coffee Project and Equal Exchange.
Welcome again to episode 5 of the Voices of the Valley podcast. If you've listened to the first few episodes, or if you've been around the presbytery for a while, you'll already have at least some familiarity with our guest today. She is none other than co-host of the podcast and ordained ruling elder, Jenni Heimach. As Jenni and I, hey, surprise. As Jenni and I were planning out this season, which has the theme of justice, we recognized that one of our goals was to explore the work of justice throughout our presbytery from a variety of angles. In a previous conversation, Jenni had shared with me her experience with and love for the Presbyterian Coffee Project. And I was only slightly familiar with this project, but was delighted to learn more about it through Jenni's firsthand experience. So when we began to consider who might have something meaningful to offer regarding environmental justice, it became obvious to me that Jenni was the person for the job. And lucky for us, she somewhat reluctantly but gratefully accepted this invitation. So Jenni, I guess welcome to your own podcast.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Bo. I am really excited to have this chat today because I am so passionate about this project. I've been involved with it for several years now, and I think anybody that knows me, anybody that's traveled with me, they know I'm going to usually bring my own coffee or try hard to do that. I will talk about this any opportunity I get, and so when this came up, I was just thrilled to do it, and so thank you for allowing me to co-host and be a guest.
Oh, of course. Thank you. This is going to be a great conversation, I know. Well, I thought we could start off by going to the ground level and asking, what is the Presbyterian Coffee Project?
Very good question. So the Presbyterian Coffee Project, to be honest, I'm not sure how long it's been around, but it's been quite a while because I've been involved with it for probably, maybe 15 years. And what it is it is an opportunity for congregations to be connected with communities around the world. It's a way to receive products that we're already loving, delicious coffee and chocolate, but we're allowed to receive it through a marketing model that is more fair for the small farmer and the cooperatives that they're members of. Basically, more of our money that we spend on coffee and chocolate reaches the small farmer, which is what I think we all want. Plus, there's another component to it that for every pound of food that is bought through the Coffee Project, a portion of that goes to a small farmers fund, which is through the Presbyterian Hunger Project, which helps small farmers. They can apply for funds that they need to enhance their harvesting and farms.
I'm a huge coffee lover and chocolate lover. And so this is something that's, immediately relevant to my everyday life. And I think that's why my ears kind of perked up when you mentioned the Presbyterian Coffee Project. What was sort of your way in? How did you get involved at first with this project?
Well, when my husband Bob was a minister at head of staff at Irvington Presbyterian Church, when we were attending there, Galen, the honorably retired Reverend Dr. Galen Schwartz was our associate, lovely person, and he was part of the mission program there. And so I talked to Galen about it. I'd heard about it. There were other churches I knew. The Presbytery buys coffee there through Equal Exchange. And so I wanted, it sounded like this wonderful thing. So I did the research and we started the program there. And there's so we began selling products at IPC. In fact, just not to brag or anything, but we were the top sales people in the state of Indiana of faith organizations.
Wow.
So because the Equal Exchange, they work with obviously other faith groups. It's not just Presbyterians. So
Okay.
so we began selling the products there. And then the Presbyterian Hunger Project, every once in a while, they've sponsored trips for people to go visit coffee farmers. So I had this amazing opportunity to go to Nicaragua and not only just learn about it, but I walked around a coffee farm. I got to meet coffee farmers. I even, another woman from Equal Exchange and I shared a room together in a coffee farmer's home. It was wonderful. And I can't talk about my trip without talking about Peggy McDonald. So we went in January of 2017 together, and we went with a good friend of mine, Tom Harton, who's an elder at Irvington, and the three of us went on this trip, and it was the January before Peggy died. So it just, that in itself is, brings back so many emotions. But so we went there and we stayed first in kind of this think church camp, compound kind of place. And we did they talked to us about the history and things like that. And then later on, we took a bus to the mountains where the coffee is grown. And the homes in which we stayed in, they were dirt floors. And we bathed outside kind of near the water source. And I remember the woman that we stayed with, she was so proud of her tangerine tree. And then they had beans drying out near the road. And then at night, we were all meeting at the cooperative, but it got dark, and so we all had flashlights going down the street and things like that. And it was just amazing. When anyone who's had the opportunity to visit a community that is so strikingly different than our own, it really becomes life-changing. So
wow,
yeah,
that's so cool to hear. And being with Peggy, and she was such a light, and still is. I mean, just lives on through the ministry of our presbytery. So I'm thankful you had that experience with her. I know you were very close.
Yeah.
You-
And it was so interesting, learning about the contrasting marketing models of this whole process. And so, I mean, I think we just have to talk about that. The conventional model has about 7 steps, where if you bought just any coffee from, Kroger or Walmart or whatever. So you've got the small farmer, you have the middleman, then you've got the exporter, and then you have the US broker, because we have to remember that coffee is a commodity and the price is set depending on the market value. So that is a whole negotiation that the cooperatives get to have a voice in, based on that. So then you've got the food distributor, the coffee company, and then finally it gets to our store and we buy it. So that process, the further you are away from the small farmer, we know the farmer's not getting a big cut of the money. Plus, we have seen, even dangerous situations, marginalization of these farmers and the big companies that come in. It's just not a safe situation at times. Um, versus the cooperative model. So the cooperative model, you have the small farmer, then they collect the coffee beans at the cooperative made up of many farmers. And that's where you have the leadership, the decision making, the votes, and things like that.
Mm.
And then equal exchange, they buy from these co-ops. And then in Massachusetts, they roast the beans because no, we don't grow coffee beans in the United States. You see local coffee, but that does not mean that the coffee beans are grown here in the United States because we just don't have the climate for that. So anytime you see a local coffee thing, that is, they've roasted it locally. They have not bought the beans locally. So equal exchange, that third component, small farmer, cooperative, then equal exchange, they roast their beans. They have a factory on the East Coast. I think they have one on the West Coast. They might have one in somewhere in the Midwest. I'm not sure, but and then it comes to us. So that's 4: small farmer, cooperative, equal exchange, and then we order it. So that farmer gets a much bigger piece of the pie. Plus the cooperatives, they offer pre-harvesting loans. So if you're a small farmer and you don't have a lot of money, you might not have the money to buy the seeds and the things that you need to prepare your fields and things like that. And so they offer these pre-harvesting loans, which is a huge game changer. They also have training. They support, there's crop diseases and things like that. They support them, on education about prevention and things like that. So there's a lot of, there's a community within this cooperative. So
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like with any product that lots of people want access to, like coffee, there tends to grow these economies that have a lot of complexity involved, a lot of people touching the process along the way. And I think with that complexity comes these opportunities for people to be exploited.
exactly.
And perhaps the person who's taking the most risk, the farmer, the small farmer,
Yes.
in starting a business, or buying equipment, or having to store harvest, things like this. And so there's a lot of complexity there. And it's, if you're buying a cup of Folgers or Maxwell House, there's a very complex process that got that coffee inside your cup. And it's hard to know who was involved in that process. Seems like with this co-op, it's pretty easy. You have access to know, like, here's this individual human being that is taking risks, and providing this gift to all of us. God knows,
Right.
we all need coffee. And so it's so
Yeah.
cool to see. And then it's not just coffee, right? There are other products that lots of people want. What other sort of products are?
They really, and I need to preface this that, I do not get a cut from Equal Exchange. I'm just really passionate about their business model and what they're doing. Let's face it, it is the easiest mission project that a church can do, because you're selling not only addictive products, but it is good, delicious coffee and their chocolate. They have a relationship with a Palestinian farmers with olive oil. That's, Bob and I use it all the time. It's delicious. You dual dates. I actually just recently participated in, listened to a webinar about that since the war,
Mm.
and even, the extra challenges that they have reaching their farm because of the war over there. They have, like I said, tea. They have some dried fruits that are really good, and nuts, and pecans and cashews and things like that. Um,
So it
yeah,
sounds
but
like,
it's
yeah, it sounds like these are not subpar products either. These are, well made, good, delicious, products like you said. It's not you're going to have better than your mass produced coffee or your mass produced chocolate.
yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I haven't tried. I haven't tried anything I haven't liked.
Hmm.
And we drink their coffee every morning.
Yeah.
And it also has opened an awareness of what it means to buy just and food with justice, just food. Um, and they're and actually the Presbyterian Hunger Project, they have a resource that is available that's called Just Eating. It's a curriculum that if you look up presbyterianmission.org, one of the leaders with the Presbyterian Hunger Project, Andrew Kang Bartlett,
Hmm.
he's if you call him down at the PC, at the headquarters, he can give you lots of information about programs that the church can, um, Sunday school lessons, or whatever programs, sessions that you can do about fair
Hmm.
food that is good, good food that's that support, and it's not marginalizing people, or things like that. So I mean, that's has a lot of
Yeah.
um, they have a lot of good information in the Presbyterian Hunger Project. In fact,
Yeah.
one time, Andrew spoke to our church for a retreat. It was a weekend retreat, and he talked about I think it was him, maybe it was somebody else, now that I remember. But anyway, this curriculum, Just Eating, it's
Hmm.
on the website. You can do a search for it,
Yeah.
and you can search for Presbyterian Hunger Project. I'm sorry, Presbyterian Coffee Project on the Presbyterian Mission website.
Yeah.
And that
It's good
they
to know.
have a link that you can start up an account. Um, I mean, you can buy directly from Eagle Exchange, but you actually get a discount as a church or a faith organization if you buy it through the Coffee Project. If you just buy it at regular market value, it's, like if you go to some stores and get it, it will be more expensive than what you can get it from
Yeah.
a church organization.
You're listening to Voices of the Valley, a podcast of Whitewater Valley Presbytery.
I want to ask you more about how churches can get involved in a moment. But I did want to comment and say it's very heartening to hear the sort of economic justice that is occurring through the establishment of these co-ops and limiting risk to the workers and the farmers. And it's not only justice on a human level, but this also relates to environmental justice. And I think too often we create a false dichotomy between environment and human. We're all wrapped in this thing together. But particularly in thinking about things like climate change, we all
Mhm.
recognize this is a dire circumstance that we're in, and we have to make some drastic changes in the coming years. And we should have made more drastic measures in previous years. What sort of things, in thinking about how the coffee is grown within co-ops and the effect of the earth on the earth, which we rely on, what ways does this model um, help us work toward that greater environmental justice?
Well, that's a really great and compassionate question, Bo, and thank you for asking that. I think that is part of the what the cooperative does to support, they're about, going through the crop, avoiding crop disease
Mhm.
and I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be a farmer because I don't know a lot about this, but we were made aware of the training of how to protect the environment. And
Mhm.
there are, we all have seen the organic labels on our foods, and you'll see a different label on the Equal Exchange coffee. Um, Even that organic labeling process is complicated because there are, some of the standards that the typical organic labels that have been put out there have not been enough for Equal Exchange. And so that is a whole, we could probably,
Yeah,
have a whole show on
sure.
the authenticity and, you know, the right way to do that.
Yeah.
So this is right. This is just a way, when the farmer has the voice, then, um, I mean, believe it or not, there are communities that there's a scarcity of water. And when that food distributor in that conventional model has the power, and we'll say it, the white American a lot of times,
Mhm.
um, those big corporations have power over these small communities so much that sometimes they control the water,
Mhm.
or they're putting off toxic fumes that is blowing into communities. Um, you know, uh, Bob went on a trip in Peru about climate justice, and things like that were happening in Peru,
Mhm.
where it was obvious that this side of this mountain had been deteriorated right when the smoke from the factory was, it was going right over this mountain. So it's things like that that we get so far removed from the community that's growing our food, and that they're trying to protect the environment.
Yeah.
They're trying to do it the right way, but they don't have the power.
Yeah. There's a plaque at Louisville Seminary where you lived while Bob went through seminary, and I also lived with my wife while I went through seminary. There's a plaque right outside Caldwell Chapel. It's a quote from, I can't remember who it is now, but it talks about how we need to get close. It's easy to talk about justice. It's easy to theologize and have really great conversations. But what's a little bit more challenging is placing your body in those places. And not, it sounds like it was a beautiful place that and you were happy to be there, but you also saw some of the real effects of our decisions, which are so far removed, like you said, from the uh, people who are actually growing the food and cultivating the earth. And so I'm really thankful that you did place your body uh, in that place where you can see both the harm that's being done, but also the work that God is enabling to happen there, which is beautiful. And there's something restorative happening, um, and there's more awareness developing. Um, some people who are listening might choose to want to do the same thing you did, to actually travel, and others may not feel that particular call. But for anyone listening, for whom this is maybe lit a fire, hearing your story, um, how can churches get involved with this project or anything related to it?
Well, it really is pretty easy because every church serves coffee. So you can just start by um, buying coffee just for the coffee hour. or for the office staff, or, whatever like that. And that's the way we started it. We did that. We transferred that. But then we had this great person from Irvington that found some scrap wood in an old cart and made a cart for me. And so we put all the products on there. Now then I'll tell you, 2020, when the pandemic hit, the coffee equal exchange really took a big hit, as everybody did, because nobody was drinking coffee in the church. And so we started creating this email list. I knew who was buying, who were regular coffee buyers. And we just said, just to make it easy, I want you to, please make an order for just a case rather than selling actual, just individual bags. When we sold it off the cart, we sold it during fellowship hour, or we had it available in the building. And then we did it easy. We didn't do it to make a profit or anything. The only thing we did was, we rounded everything up. I think a bag of coffee was like $6.50, and we made it $7 a bag, just to make it simple. But during the pandemic, we started selling it to these regular buyers in the church, and we'd email, hey, I'm ready to make a coffee order. Who wants, what do you want? Put in the link. And then they would just, reply back. And then, they would just buy it by the case. And it really helped, Equal Exchange out, because they had all this coffee that wasn't getting sold because nobody was going to church. So it was, that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Either sell it individually, which really, it takes a person to stand there next to the products and they have to order it. But you can just simply have your church serve it. And that's, or have special events like during Christmas, before Christmas, say, hey, we're going to order a bunch of chocolate and I always ordered extra amounts during that time, and then people could put together like gift baskets and things like that. So, but I know, First Meridian Heights, they have sold this for a long time. And, Fort Wayne First, they were selling it, I know they were for a while, because I went up and talked to them and did a program for them. And if churches are interested in learning more about this, or would would like to have someone come and speak, I have done that up at Fort Wayne First to, if somebody wants to contact me. But there also is a lot of information on the Equal Exchange website. They even have PowerPoint, YouTube presentations and things. There's a lot of resources. When I started this out, I created my own PowerPoint and things like this. And now that, they have a lot of support for the churches to get, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to contact me, because I just love this project.
Yeah.
It's easy. It is an easy mission project. It is so easy.
Yeah, that love that you mentioned just really comes through when you talk about your experience, and it's very real to you, and it's tangible because you've been there, and other people have the opportunity, or may have the opportunity, to do that as well. But even just ordering coffee from Equal Exchange, like you mentioned, is a way to get your foot in the door. So
yes, be sure you order it through the Presbyterian Coffee Project, because for every pound of food that is sold through that network, I don't know, it's like 15 cents or something goes to this farmers fund that I mentioned earlier, that and then farmers can apply for grants. Like maybe they need a rain barrel, or maybe they need, training or things like that. But it's a very useful fund for farmers, called a Small Farmers Fund.
Yeah. And we're recording this before Valentine's Day. It'll be released afterward, but it'll still be a great time to go and order some chocolate, and maybe you can give it to your Valentine post Valentine's Day.
The chocolate is amazing. I am a dark chocolate lover, and it is amazing. And how, how much even more amazing it is that that it was um, given to you in a sustainable, fair, just way.
Yeah, yeah. As followers of Christ and people of faith, that's something that is not just recommended, but really commanded of us to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. And thank you for doing that, Jenni. It's been so good to talk with you today.
Well, I really appreciate it. As you can tell, I'm very excited about it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you for listening to Voices of the Valley, and to our guest, Elder Jenni Heimach, for sharing her experiences with the Presbyterian Coffee Project, the inherent economic and environmental justice in the fair trade movement, and how your church can get involved through ordering equal exchange products. We hope you'll join us for our next episode featuring Reverend Carol McDonald as she shares her advocacy for the LGBTQAI+ community through her work on the board of the Covenant Network of Presbyterians in its mission to build a fully inclusive church. For our hosts, Reverend Bo Brown and Elder Jenni Heimach, and Presbytery support staff Dawn West, this is Craig Shaw reminding you to let your voice be heard.